where we can understand things.
Well, Brummy, my question still stands. What are you going to use to figure out the unknown, if in any way, shape, or form? Are you going to just stop at the unknown, no science, or at least come up with some just so story, even if it is not 100% correct as a theory, to guide your exploration and have some form of science? What are you going to do,
science for why things go up or down. We've already got it.
Are you going to stop thinking and stop science, Brummy? Or use some sort of just so story to power exploration? What are you going to do?
I don't know.
What are you going to do to figure out these unknowns? What theory are you going to come up with? What are you going to do to prosecute science? Or are you just going to stop science and just stop it? I don't know. What are you going to do?
Are you going to, how about if you undulate it?
I'm just going to keep thinking about things. I'm just going to keep using my brain, think about things, think what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, how something works, how doesn't something work. Just keep looking, make observations, and just keep living my life. Really, if I can actually figure out some sort of way that I can actually do some sort of scientific experiment or some sort of way to prove to myself one way or the other, or to figure something out, then that's something I'll have to come across my mind. At the moment, I do not have the answer to that.
One of your unanswerable questions that you just mentioned was, we can't tell if the sky is moving or we're moving. What you would do is you would try and come up with a test that would isolate one of those two things, and from there you would move on and say, okay, well, this is in keeping with the Earth moving and not in keeping with the sky just moving.
Well, the sky's only moving because we're on a spinning and rotating. Hold on, the sky's only moving because we're on a spinning body. What I would do to see if it was the sky or the Earth, I would just get off the body.
Do that. They've done that. But, so that's kind of difficult for you.
What was the question you asked me?
I was asking.
I just isolate one of them. How am I going to isolate? Basically, I think the only probable way to figure it out myself is by going up to space and having a look for myself. That's probably the only thing.
One way to isolate it would be to take a device that measures movement, like a gyroscope or a ring laser gyro, and that would be one way. Another way would be to measure weights. You would come up with a hypothesis that if I was on a spinning ball, then gravity would be apparently lower when I was on the equator than at the North Pole. These are all things that you can postulate and then go and test.
They're not ice. That's not really nothing. That's like you've got some scale. You've moved at different points on the planet, right, or the Earth or the plane, and you've got a different measurement. Therefore, the Earth's round. That doesn't really work for me. Sorry.
They do have.
You got to remember operations and how this was discovered. Somebody said, "I think that if we're moving on a ball that's 25,000 miles in diameter and it's moving 1,000 miles per hour, then when I was on the equator, I would see a 0.03 reduction in gravity based upon first principles, what happens with centrifugal force opposing the force of gravity. Now, you come in there and you find out that it is 0.03 pounds lighter. Now, that's an evidence towards it. It's not like we went and said, it's 0.03, you must be moving 1,000 miles an hour.
I've already conceded with you. The pendulum, working, whatever the fuck that pendulum's called, when it changes its fucking, you leave it to go back and forth.
They don't have the
pendulum. And it can tell you the longitude. Yeah, thank you. And then you got your longitude and latitude, and you got your weights that weigh different. See, these are little bits of bobs of evidence towards it, but that's not really the big picture, is it? That's not really the bit. There could be other things that are happening that we're unaware of, that are giving us these little bits of evidence or these little bits of breadcrumbs to lead us to this assumption that the Earth's a globe, when really these could be alternate. There could be alternate things that we're unaware of that are giving us these misleading clues that we're piecing together, and we're piecing these things together to go, all right, it's a globe. But these things that we're piecing together could be lies. There could be other things that are giving these sorts of reasons.
When you come up with the idea first,
do I need to?
But this is the reason that you've got a problem with this. You've got to come up with the idea first. Come up with your theory that if I went to different locations, this would happen. If you're the first one to come up with that theory, then it's pretty damn good proof that probably is the case. Really. Yes, there's always the chance that unicorn farts could be different at every latitude, causing all the effects that we're seeing.
You're making it sound ridiculous by saying unicorn farts.
I'm just saying that there's always the possibility there could be something else.
Yes, that's what you need to say. But don't say unicorn farts.
It doesn't matter.
But labeling unicorn farts.
Just don't get hung up on that.
Figure of speech. I get it. But
legitimacy of
but
the
you don't
argument. There's
realize it.
always something that could
No,
be another cause.
it does
But
discredit
the
the
first,
legitimacy of the argument.
for
That's
fuck's
why I'm
sake.
pointing it out, because you are taking away the credit of the alternate
No, would you
explanation
stop
by
whining?
making it sound ridiculous.
Stop whining.
I'm just pointing it out. I'm just putting it out there that
Well,
you are
stop putting it
muddying the
out there
waters.
because it's pointless.
Well, you don't put it out there, and I won't mention it then. If you don't say
So
unicorn
it could
farts
be
and make it sound
unicorn
ridiculous.
farts. It could be some unknown ether effect. It could be
There you
God
go again.
determines that gravity goes down,
Oh, it
and
could
it
be
only
something
goes down.
ridiculous. It could be God.
There's-
It could be fairy dust. It could be something
Yes,
stupid.
there's nothing wrong with that statement.
Yeah, there
It's
is,
not even
because
really that
you're muddying.
derogatory. I'm saying
You're
that it could be any
absolutely,
ridiculous thing you can
you're
think of.
absolutely
All right, fuck
muddying
you.
the waters of
Fuck
the
you,
alternate.
cunt.
Thank you. No
Goodbye,
worries.
you
I've
little
just
fucking
exposed you on what you're
faggot
doing.
cunt.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It could be something so
Totally.
ridiculous.
Well,
Something I would never even think of.
well, Brahmi, part of this is the Just So story to prepare us for discovery. Because if we don't have a theory to guide our science, we go nowhere. So we got to tell ourselves a Just So story to help guide our exploration in science.
Hey, Lemon, can I ask you something about what you just said? I somewhat agree with you. But how come it doesn't satisfy you that that's what we're doing? And that's all science is we use, as you say, your Just So story. I'd say our best story, a story that best describes the phenomena, or that best describes what's happening, and defines it, and all that kind of stuff. I think that is what we're doing, and until we find a better one, we go ahead and we trust in the one that we currently have, and we test it and all that kind of stuff. That's what we're doing, in my opinion. But you don't agree with the stuff that I believe.
Well, I've heard your Just So story. I used to believe it as a Glober, but now I tell myself another story. It's like going to Hollywood and you see this, really crappy B movie, but you love it. Like I don't know, a Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's just a crap movie, but it's just so much fun, and you just like it. This is the Just So story we tell ourselves with science. We're coming up with all of these bumping particles, these fermions, these gluons, these tachyons, 100 different particles and interactions or whatever, but it may be tacky, and someone else may not like that story and tell themselves another to come up with other routes of exploration.
Okay.
But sometimes we like the story so much, even though it's not accurate, we just get stuck with it.
Okay. Well, like I said, your general sentiment, I would say I have no problem with. The only thing I have a problem with is you're more or less saying something similar to what Brummy had said 20 minutes ago.
What's up?
When he said
What did I say?
that we have our explanation, and we're only looking at our explanation. We're not looking at any alternatives and stuff like that. And there's alternatives out there that we're not looking at. And that's something along the lines of what you're saying. You're saying that there's one explanation for this type of stuff, and you're not happy with it, so you're
and even in the they're making ad hoc rationalizations like the flat earthers or other theorists do to preserve idea that add clumps to this spherical gravimetric form is a Just So fantasy from the Greek world that I don't see in everyday life. I don't see water clumping into a ball.
Right. And so that's, again, like I said, the sentiment that you and Brummy described, I have no problem with. The thing that I have a problem with is that, again, you guys both described it in a different way, suggested that we have one way, there's alternative. The problem is, and this is the kicker, you guys don't have an alternative. That part is just not true. There's the explanation that we have, and you guys don't like it or don't agree with it.
I gave you an alternative. I gave you an alternative. You rejected it. That's fine, but I said due to vibration and frequency, it takes different shapes and organizes matter into an up and down column. Now you can accept or reject the alternative, but that's the alternative that I'm going with, for better or for worse, something electromagnetic. That's the Just So story that I'm telling myself to guide future exploration.
Yeah, that sounds like if I read that in a article just now, I would think that sounded kind of cool, And the only reason why I would continue to read that article is because somebody wouldn't just be writing it as a fiction, they'd be describing some kind of test that led them to believe that this is true. And again, these things you're saying, they sound fantastical, and they have no they have no backing or no evidence to think
I
that's
go with
reality.
ether swimming in and out of matter, like a river, a current, carrying matter with it in its flow. So I'm telling myself another Just So story, just like you guys are. We'll see what sort of scientific exploration, if any, can be powered
Understand
off
the
of it.
distinction I'm making, right? Because you're comparing them as if they're equivalent, but what you're
They
describing
are equivalent.
doesn't have backing or evidence, whereas the things that we share with you guys,
They are
we only share
equivalent.
them because they have backing and evidence.
They are equivalent, though, because you haven't seen matter clump into a ball in a vacuum, and you haven't even seen some of the basis of your theory. A lot of your theory is based off of these particles that are not seen. I've never seen a gluon. I've never even seen the conception of the atom that they have with a neutron, proton, and electron cloud whirring around it. That's all theoretical abstraction. So if you have a theoretical abstraction that really isn't quite proven, I'm going to go with another theory. I'm going to go with another Just So story and see what I can find, and see what experiments I can support with my Just So story.
And then how would you balance the equation?
There's plenty of people who have